a negotiated sentence, and I do
You gave him 11 months and 15 days, didn't you, for assaulting this woman?
If that is what your records show, I have no reason to disagree with that.
And he grinned, according to the news reports. Grinned at you. You remember that?
I do not recall that. I do have recollections of this case, and if I may, Senator, it is a case in which the Commonwealth had...
Yes, ma'am, but I don't want you to take all my time telling me about the case, because I've looked at the case.
Welcome back to American Mindset, the channel where we stand for truth, justice, and the values that made this country great. Today, I want to talk about something that has me fired up, and it should have every single American outraged. Senator John Kennedy confronted a judicial nominee, Judge Waldheimer, in a Senate hearing, and what came out of that hearing is nothing short of infuriating. This is about a man who committed one of the most disgusting, heinous crimes you can imagine, and the judge's response was, to put it lightly, disgraceful. Let's watch the video.
Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Waldheimer, am I saying your name right?
You are. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Who is Brian Labus, L-A-B-U-S? Does that name ring a bell?
Brian Labus, if I am remembering...
Labus.
If I am remembering correctly, since I had 2 years in criminal, about 2,000 cases assigned to me, I believe he was the first human trafficker case we had in Montgomery County. Am I remembering that correctly, Senator?
Well, he was 25 years old. He was a nursing assistant.
Oh, that's a different case. I do recall that one. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, nursing home. He sexually assaulted one of the patients. She had Alzheimer's. Do you remember how old she was?
I do not remember, but I do know she needed to be in a nursing home and was incapacitated.
She was 93 years old. He's 25. He gets her alone. She's got Alzheimer's, and he molests her. This meathead made bail, and because he's like a rock, only dumber, he immediately goes out and drives while smoking dope. He gets arrested. And he came before you for sentencing. Do you remember what sentence you gave him?
I do, and my recollection of the facts is slightly different. My recollection is his DUI arrest was after my sentencing, but regardless, you are correct, he had the DUI. This was a negotiated sentence in this case.
What sentence did you give him?
I do not recall the terms of the negotiation. I do remember it was a negotiated sentence, and I do have...
You gave him 11 months and 15 days, didn't you, for assaulting this woman?
If that is what your records show, I have no reason to disagree with that.
And he grinned, according to the news reports. Grinned at you. You remember that?
I do not recall that. I do have recollections of this case, and if I may, Senator, it is a case in which the Commonwealth had...
Yes, ma'am, but I don't want you to take all my time telling me about the case, because I've looked at the case. For the DUI, after this meathead assaults a 93-year-old Alzheimer patient, you gave him 11 months and 15 days. For the DUI case, you gave him 3 days to 6 months.
Senator, the DUI was not in front of me. I was out of the criminal division by then, and I believe that went to a judge that took my cases when I was transferred to the civil division.
Ms. Perry, tell me the difference between res judicata and collateral estoppel.
Collateral estoppel is also known as issue preclusion. Res judicata is also known as claim preclusion. In issue preclusion, the question is whether the parties have previously litigated to their merits and finality the same issue, in which case they would not be allowed to relitigate the issue. In claim preclusion, the question is similar, whether the parties have litigated to finality on the merits claims, and they would not be allowed to relitigate those.
Okay. Tell me the legal meaning of present sense impression.
Present sense impression is an exception to the hearsay rule. And in present sense exception cases, it's the general idea behind the exception is that a person is unlikely to lie if they are simply giving their present recollection of exactly what is occurring as it is occurring. And therefore, those statements are allowed to be used in evidence, even though they are, by definition, hearsay.
Very good. Tell me, what is, we all pay taxes on income. I know you do because the FBI checked. They do a thorough background check. And I do too. What is income?
Well, the IRS regulations are extremely complex when it comes
Conceptually,
to
what is income?
describing income, but basically it is anything of value that you receive throughout the year. So it could be gratuities, it could be wages.
Well, what if and I'm asking you how you go about analyzing this. Let's suppose Senator Durbin starts a new company and he takes it public. And I decide to buy some stock because I believe in Dick Durbin. And I buy it at 10. And it goes to 20. And I'm feeling all warm and toasty. But I don't sell it. I want to because I think it's going to go to 30 because I believe in Senator Durbin. Can government tax me even though I haven't sold it?
I am by no means a tax expert, and I would like no one to rely upon this tax advice. My understanding is that would be an unrealized capital gain, and you would be taxed upon it at the time that it is realized. But again, I am not a tax law expert.
Why is that? I mean, what's the basis for that?
Why am I not a tax law expert?
What's the basis for that?
I believe the basis for that is that those are somewhat imaginary gains that can rise or fall as the market rises or falls. And so they tax you upon it at the time that you actually realize that interest.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'm sorry I'm out of time. I didn't get to ask you questions, but good luck to you.
Thank you, Senator. Judge Wildheimer, do you want to explain the sentencing in that case?
Thank you, Senator. When we have cases in which there is a guilty plea, in a case like the Labus case, which I do have a specific recollection of, I would often ask for a sidebar and ask for a justification for me accepting the negotiated guilty plea. There have been times that I have rejected negotiated guilty pleas. In that case, there were evidentiary insufficiencies on behalf of the Commonwealth. And when that occurs, it is important for me to make sure that the crime is recognized, and the effect on the victim is recognized, even if it might not be to the same extent as if someone would have been found guilty after a jury and the sentencing would have been exclusively up to me. This at least brings closure to the victim's family, and it brings closure, a recognition of the crime. And for that reason, in this case, I accepted the negotiated guilty plea.
Thank you. And I want to thank all the members of the panel. Quick logistic.
Here's the story. Brian Labus, a 25-year-old nursing assistant, sexually assaulted a 93-year-old Alzheimer's patient, his own patient. Let that sink in for a second. This was a defenseless elderly woman, someone who trusted him to take care of her. She was in the last stages of her life, suffering from Alzheimer's, and this monster took advantage of her vulnerability. And what did Judge Waldheimer do? She gave him a slap on the wrist, 11 months and 15 days. That's it. Not even a full year. Now let me ask you this. Do you think justice was served? Do you think this sentence reflects the severity of the crime? Because I sure don't. Let's break this down. A 93-year-old woman, someone's grandmother, someone's mother, was assaulted in a nursing home, a place where she was supposed to be safe. And this guy, this meathead, as Senator Kennedy rightly called him, walks away with less than a year in jail. Oh, and it gets worse. After this sweetheart deal, the guy doesn't learn his lesson. He goes out, smokes dope, and drives while high. And what happens when he gets caught? Another light sentence. This time, only 3 days to 6 months. But that wasn't Judge Waldheimer's decision. That was another judge. So I have to ask, what is going on in our legal system? Where's the accountability for these criminals? Where's the justice for the victims? Now, Judge Waldheimer tried to defend herself by saying this was a negotiated plea. She claimed that the Commonwealth, the prosecution, didn't have enough evidence to go to trial. And she said she accepted the plea deal because it brought some closure to the victim's family. But let me tell you something. Closure doesn't come from letting a predator off easy. Closure comes from justice. Closure comes from knowing that the person who committed this unspeakable act is behind bars where they belong. Our system is supposed to protect the innocent and punish the guilty, not make excuses for why we can't do the right thing. And let's talk about this bigger issue. Why are we seeing so many of these light sentences for serious crimes? Time and time again, we hear about judges bending over backward to accommodate criminals while ignoring the victims. This isn't just about one judge. This is about a mindset that has infected our justice system. A mindset that says criminals deserve compassion while victims get forgotten. Well, I say enough is enough. We need judges who care more about protecting the innocent than coddling the guilty. We need leaders who will stand up and say, not on my watch. And we need a justice system that puts justice first. Senator Kennedy also grilled the judge on her understanding of the law. Things like residential judicata, collateral estoppel, and present sense impression. Now, she answered those questions correctly, but here's the thing. Knowing the law is one thing. Applying it fairly and justly is another. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you don't have the backbone to hold criminals accountable, then what good are you as a judge? What good is all that legal knowledge if the decisions you make undermine the very foundation of justice? Look, folks, this isn't just about one case or one judge. This is about a pattern we're seeing across the country. Soft on crime policies, weak sentencing, and a justice system that seems to care more about the rights of criminals than the rights of victims. But here's the good news. We don't have to accept this. We can demand better. We can elect leaders who will appoint judges that uphold the rule of law. We can push back against this culture of leniency and fight for a justice system that actually delivers justice. So here's my message to Judge Waldheimer and every other judge out there. Do your job. Protect the innocent. Punish the guilty. And remember that your decisions have real consequences for real people. And to all of you watching, let's stay vigilant. Let's hold our leaders accountable. And let's never stop fighting for the values that make this country great. If you agree with me, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to American Mindset. Together, we can make a difference. God bless you, and God bless America.